the idea of the community has to be placed under a microscope, and we have to confront all of the impediments to this idea of community. And why is it that we don't have community?
Dr. Neal, is the idea of a Black community over? Is the Black community cooked? From Martin Muhammad.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very good question, you know. And in the book, I say basically that what we call the Black community is not. I use this language. I say it is not an existential reality. I say that the Black community, as we've known it, as the way it's phrased here, is more of a ideological, philosophical aspiration, demand, need, desire, wish, whatever you want to call it, in the real sense. Because we're fragmented. Here's the thing, we're fragmented. Black Americans are, I talk about the demise of linked faiths. We are a fragmented group. And it's very difficult to talk about a notion of community with so much fragmentation.
It's always a pleasure to have the ability to respond to a conversation between two Black male PhDs about things that affect all of us, from the two PhDs conversating in this video to regular guys like myself. You heard Dr. Ronald Neal speak of fragmentation in the Black community. And another doctor, Dr. Umar Johnson, speaks to this fragmentation, except he makes a point that he doesn't mean to make.
Black women are the last married and the first divorced.
God damn.
Black marriages on average last 5 years, like a Black business. Right?
Yeah.
And what Black men don't want to admit to themselves is, if you are in an interracial relationship, there is an inferiority complex somewhere within you. You may not even be aware of it.
Right.
But there's no way you can explain, after what we have been through at the hands of white folks.
Right.
There's no way you can explain choosing a white woman with whom you're going to spend the rest of your life.
Right.
Understanding what we've been through, understanding what Black women are going through, and within the context that Black women are the largest human population on earth.
Right.
There's more women of African descent in the world than any other group. There's not more Chinese women than them. There's not more East Indian women than them. There's not more Latino women than them. African women run the planet. So how can you convince me that you couldn't find one that is good enough for you?
We all know that Dr. Umar Johnson has a base that he's catering to, as well as an agenda. So, of course, often on purpose, he leaves out how large that gray area actually is when he's speaking of the young ladies that are neither of European descent or of sub-Saharan African descent, because that's a very large gray area. And that said, well, there could be some good outcomes from that gray area as well.
黒人の好きなところとかってありますか？
黒人かっこいい。
どういうところ？
なんかルーツとか文化大事にしてるところもそうだけど、普通に見た目かっこいい。
見た目かっこいい。
かっこいいよね。
ドタイプ。
それは顔ファッション。
顔もファッションも髪型も。
あ、もう全部。
全部。
海外から来てるもんね、全部。
全部。
黒人の方とかも付き合いたいです。機会があれば。
Of course. Of course. Of course.
はい。
When you have so many different subgroups and competing orientations or whatever, it's like, I give the example. So you have Muslims, the Muslim community. Muslims know who they are. And Muslims have a kind of fundamental, basic, and they have some differences within Islam and stuff like that, but they've got some basic fundamentals that unite them as a group, okay? And the whole idea of the Ummah, you understand? And they have some agreed upon things. A community, that's the thing about a community. So a community in its most robust understanding, is something that when you have norms, you have standards, you have things that are agreed upon. Okay, you have codes or what have you, and the problem that we have is that we don't have a set of agreed upon norms, standards, codes that link an entire population together. You understand? And we can't say, I mean, it's so bad. It's like we can't say what is not normative for us as a population.
This is such an important conversation to have, because when we start talking about the Black community, it's always important to define terms. What is a community? And in this community, who has what roles? What are your norms? What are your social customs? And if we can't define those, then maybe we're not talking about a community. Because a community can't be, hey, you're a man, you're supposed to give me resources and I do whatever I want to do. Because quite simply put, we don't really have any norms in our community. And when we talk about the fragmentation, it points straight to that. It's anything goes, and that makes not a community.
Dear future husband, this is what you get. All of this. Okay? Don't worry. There's lingerie. There's nice clothes in the closet. We'll have them on from time to time. Alright? I get dressed up sometimes, but most of the time, this is what you get.
They told women their worth had an expiration date. But guess what? Your eggs are tougher, smarter, and more resilient than anyone gave you credit for. And if we're being honest, the real biological clock might belong to men, not women. And science backs that up. Women have been bamboozled, straight up lied to. For decades, we've been told that our fertility expires after 30, like milk. That our eggs get old, dusty, and useless, while men can have kids forever. But new research just flipped the entire story on its head.
Bro, literally selling your cat is like the easiest thing ever. And people were trying to make it seem like I was not gonna get nowhere with my prices. But the first 2 months that I did it, I made 1K the first month and 1K again the second month. And that's so good considering the fact I have like no Instagram followers. I have like no followers on social media. And literally it's so easy because I can chill and I just get money sent to me. And it's even better when it's free because I don't even gotta do nothing, and I do get free money sent to me. Like, what? This is so crazy. It's like so relaxing and chill.
I just saw something on Instagram with Nigerians. I just found out. So Nigerians, some tech entrepreneur, I don't know if these are European people or these are people from within Nigeria. They're creating a Nigerian version of OnlyFans. Okay? Yes, a Nigerian version of OnlyFans. And you have Nigerians who are saying, this is not us. This is the Western world. I mean, that's what they do. That's what the West people do. Here's what I'm saying. They're saying this is anti-African. That the P word, prawn is not an African thing. It's a Western thing. And when people talk like that, when they say this is anti-African, this is not what Africans do, they're telling you that we still have a code. We don't do this type of stuff. It's not a part of. This is not who we are. Unfortunately, we can't. We can't. We're black people in America. We can't talk like that. So what I'm saying is that in order to say that you have a community, you have to be able to say what you're not. And there's too much relativity and plurality, individualism that exists within the black population to say in a robust way that there is this thing called the black community. Because right now in the 21st century, it's like anything goes. There's no There's nothing unifying.
Let's continue talking about misguided definitions of love by looking at this picture. What does this picture say to you? Before we get into dissecting the picture, I want you to stop and think, is this what your home looked like growing up? Okay, now let's look at what we notice with this picture. There's one person who's smiling in the picture. There's one person with shoes on in the picture. That's one person that looks fully clothed and fed in the picture. I'll let you notice who that is. Now I want you to notice who is the one holding everything in this picture together. The one literally feeding a child at the breast, a person carrying the husband on the back, holding the hands of the two children, and all of the contents of the house, and seems to be leading the way.
When you talk about what a community is, you have to have a common set of ideals, like Dr. Ronald Neal said earlier. If one of the founding ideals of your community is that women have been aggrieved and that men have not carried their weight, and that essentially the other half of your community is essentially taking advantage of you, like you saw in the other picture, then that's a non-starter.
Now I want you to stop and think about the narrative that we are often sold as women. Let me also insert here that I am a fan of marriage. I love to see a healthy marriage where two people are supporting each other.
I saw a tweet that said it's okay to struggle, but you better not be struggling with no man next to you. And amen. Amen. Why are you suffering and you're struggling? And there's a man that is resting on the side. If a man is laying next to you, girl, he need to be taking that burden. He need to be taking that burden off your back, okay?
What I am not a fan of is what is presented in this picture and what most often happens when women get in relationships. All of the weight, all of the labor, all of the sacrifice to, quote unquote, hold the family together is placed solely on the shoulders of one person.
How do you build a healthy community, healthy relationships and families on the ideal that there's something flawed fundamentally about your other partner?
Behind the scenes, this is the true picture of what many families look like, and I know, especially based on all the comments on my last few posts. Add in here something like betrayal or domestic violence, where mom's arms and legs are literally cut off because she is so wounded, and yet the expectation still remains for her to hold the family together.
And like Dr. Ronald Neal said earlier, that goes straight to religion. And if you have that idea tucked away in your religion, then you're not going to get anywhere in your community.
What Christianity is. And I say, what does it have to do with with the founder, Jesus Christ? What does it have to do with it? Because it seems to me that they use the church for everything other than what Jesus has been understood historically among Christians. So it ain't a Christian church. You're pushing feminism. You're pushing LG. What's Christian about pushing feminism? What's Christian about pushing the LGBTQ ideology? What's Christian about that? What's Christian about pushing one gender, period? Here's the thing. Oh, we love Jesus, but we hate black men. What's Christian about that? She loves Jesus, but hates black men.
You see Dr. Dunbar put his hand over his mouth because he's contemplating the depth of what Dr. Ronald Neal just said. In a church that is going to be about your group of people, you're not going to take other groups of people outside of your group and place them on a pedestal in your group. If your group is going to be, and Dr. Ronald Neal listed many in this particular video, your people, you have to put your people first. And if you're not doing that in your quote unquote group, in your community, that's further illustration that you don't have a community, right? That said, this is the community that's out there that we're actually competing against. And if we can't find a way to either recreate or become a community that's doing this, our kids don't have a chance.
If you think school zone is bad back at home, look at this. This is the top high school in this state. and they just finished school. It is currently 10:15 p.m. and that's when school finishes. All the parents are here to pick up their kids. All these cars, they're all here. They blocked the entire road to pick up their children. 10:15 p.m. You think school's hard in the West? 10:15 p.m.
We've been dismembered. We've been dismembered. And as I said in the book, the Black intellectual class, the professional class is in denial. The Black female is in denial. She does not want to come face to face with the reality of disintegration. Can Black, and to answer George Frazier's question, no, you're not going to have a traditional Black family in a robust way as long as these conditions persist into the future. You're going to have continued fragmentation. You're not going to create families that existed during Jim Crow and even some places under slavery, everything like that. It's not going to happen. Yes, you're going to have a minority of Black men and Black women, as you have right now. At least 30% of the Black population, men and women, they get married, they have babies. It seems to me that that is going to be preserved. But for the rest of the population, no, you're still going to have baby mamas, baby daddies, single men with no kids like myself, single women with no kids, you see. And yeah, and it would take major to really alter it, to move that 30% to something higher, to 40% or even half. But let's just say even 40%, to move the 30% who get married to 40%. That's going to take a lot of work. That takes just a 10% increase is going to take a lot of work, a lot of psychological work. Like I told you, this thing with these women, it is psychological and it is ideological. We're not just dealing with material, we're dealing with the mind. You see? And I will end like this. Elijah Muhammad was a genius. Elijah Muhammad knew, even though the Nation of Islam, never was able to compete with like Black Baptists in terms of numbers, he dealt with the mind. He was a psychologist with a 6th grade education.
I really appreciate the conversation that these two PhDs brought to us, because these are two very learned men understanding that even in their own lives as single men, that they're dealing with something that is something that men in China aren't dealing with in the same way, something that men in Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, in certain parts and even in South America just aren't dealing with. And so if we're going to try and build some kind of Black community, and we can't create simple standards like a wife should try to get married before she's 30. A woman should try and get married before she has kids by another man. She should try and be in shape for a man. And on the other side, a man should be to the point where he's able to take care of her and some kids, or on the way to taking care of her and some kids. But then again, we have plenty of those guys here already. But many young ladies just don't like the quote unquote package they're in. And so the question remains, how do you build a community when you don't have any common set of ideals? If young ladies are looking up to Glorillaz and Meg Thee Stallions, and that's their idea of what a mature woman looks like, neither of those women are building healthy families or having children. They're just doing what they want with their body as they choose. And the men are interchangeable. And so in that, how do you build a community that's going to compete with a community that has their children in school from 7 in the morning to 10:15 at night, getting ready to power their country to beating the leading country in the world in science and technology? You simply can't do it. And any attempt to try and make some Hail Mary pass, hoping that we can build a community that can catch up with that with no ideals, is just taking shots in the dark. And those shots are guaranteed to miss. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, guys.